morning, Palestinian officials say at least 6 people are dead after a raid by Israeli forces in the West Bank. The raid happened in the northern city of Nablus, known as a Hamas militant stronghold. It set off fighting between the two groups, which led to those deaths. Now, last month, Israeli troops killed 10 people in a similar raid. Meanwhile, in Israel, lawmakers are advancing a proposed plan yesterday that would overhaul the country's judicial system. The plan has sparked mass protests, tens of thousands of people, in fact, for weeks around the country. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is on trial as well for corruption charges, says the proposed plan would help rein in the power of unelected judges. But critics say it will give more power to the ruling party, the Knesset, and weaken the Supreme Court. Here to explain more is Shanna Fuld, CEO and anchor of the Israeli Daily News, who's been covering the story in Tel Aviv. Shanna, thank you so much for being here. It's nice to see you. Tell us, how will this judicial overhaul affect the current legal system in Israel, and why is it that so many people are taking to the streets in protest against it?
Okay, well, great to be here with you as well, and nice to see you, Lindsay. I'm speaking to you today from Tel Aviv, and protests have been rampant for more than a month now, every Saturday night, and 2 Mondays in a row. There have been tens of thousands on Monday in Jerusalem, hundreds of thousands in Tel Aviv. And what's going on right now is that the Supreme Court is getting an overhaul. In 1996, the courts got a lot of power. People complained then. And now people are complaining again, and I'm going to explain why. There are 2 things that are going on. One is that there's a change in the way that judges are going to be appointed to the system. Now, there used to be an intricate experience where the Israel Bar Association was involved with a justice minister, a cabinet minister, Supreme Court president, and 2 justices. Now, critics of the current system say that they don't want the judges that are already presiding to have such a big opportunity to bring in their friends or their colleagues to the bench. Now, what's happening is that the cabinet and the coalition, which is a right-wing coalition, is making it so that they will be able to bring in who they would like onto the high court. And that's an issue because Israel has 2 main government bodies. We have the Supreme Court and we have the Knesset, or the Israeli parliament. And so with just a 61 seat majority out of 120, these members would be able to have a vote on who they want to be on the bench. That's number 1. Number 2 is giving themselves the power to veto Supreme Court rules. And so people are complaining about this. They say we have 2 main legislative bodies, and if the Supreme Court doesn't have their independence because they're being selected by the coalition, and they're also at will of the coalition to be able to change rulings that they've come into, people say that they don't feel that they're supported and that there's enough checks and balances.
So where do these bills stand right now? We know Israel's president, Isaac Herzog, has called for compromise talks. Has Netanyahu and his party been receptive to come to the table at all?
What we're hearing is that, the ministers here are kind of not really responding. What they've said is, we have Simcha Rothman, and he's presiding over these judicial reforms. He's kind of the front face of it. And he said to the president, yes, we're going to hear you. There should be an opportunity to discuss, but we're not going to slow down votes. And so there was a vote yesterday. There were tens of thousands of people outside protesting and demonstrating outside of the parliament building. Things were chaotic. And so what we're seeing is that it is going to go into its 2nd and 3rd reading. And despite President Herzog is calling for discussions, we're not seeing any of those happen.
And so since Netanyahu was reelected, Israel's government has become more conservative. And we've even seen people in America protesting, some Jews in America protesting against what changes are being proposed. Is there any others that are the major concerns right now for folks there?
Folks here are, I just want to say that folks here were concerned also when the Supreme Court decided to put abortion back to the states. So you do have a lot of American Israeli values that are neck and neck. And so that was a protest back when that happened, and now we're protesting again. You can see huge bodies of Israelis out in the streets, and what they say is that they don't feel comfortable for their future generations. You should also be aware that tech companies have threatened, and at least one or two have already pulled out their funds from Israeli banks. And they are doing this because they're trying to send a message to say that they believe that without an independent Supreme Court, that companies will lose out on investments, and that when people are looking at Israel as a place to put their funds, that they'll think twice. And so if you're asking me about who is involved, you can definitely say that the tech sector, which has exploded here in Israel in the last 30 years and raised the country's GDP, a lot of huge billionaire CEOs are strongly contesting this.
Yeah, we are seeing the value of the shekel going down. All right, Shanna Fuld, CEO and anchor of Israeli Daily News, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.